So the weather has dramatically turned since we got qualifying completed. There has been heavy rainfall, the wind has picked up, but we still carry on whatever the weather here at the BNL karting series. So the first pre-final of the day, and we head to Junior Rotax. Let's have a look at the starting grid. So after pole position yesterday, he's done it again. Kai Rillet starts from pole for the pre-final and will be joined by Joip Breedveld in the 205. So in all JJ Racing front row, Mathis Turlo and Fahin Mega round out the top two rows with Casper Schomans and Enzo Bol on row 3. Benjamin Van Hees and Enzo van den Dickenberg round out the top 4 rows with Nick Gerhards and Ralph van der Pevert rounding out the top 10 as the spray and the rainfall is absolutely biblical. This is going to be a tough test for all drivers. Rounding out the 20 strongest, Thies Dams, Vic Stevens, Boluet, Luke Neeson, Olivier Jonkers, Rooney de Bruyker, Craig Knoren, Matthias Ringard, Vasco Westhovens and Puck Gubbles. That is your 20-strong grid. 13 minutes on the clock, plus an additional lap. And this is going to be tough for everybody at the circuit. You can see the amount of spray that is being kicked back by the wet weather Mojo tyres that are shorn on these karts. And it is coming down rather heavily. So the humidity is up. And the tension now increases. Humidity is now raised to around 77%. Highs of around 21 degrees Celsius here today. Visibility is going to be at a premium on this 1,388 metre circuit here at Mariembourg in Belgium as we truly kickstart the second half of the season. So there is Kai Rillet at the front of the field. We'll wait for Joip Breedveld to join alongside, which will be happening shortly. So 20 drivers set to go into battle here at Mariembourg for the pre-final here on day 2. Rillet looks to extend his championship lead even further. Fahin Mega looking to get into the top 3 as we now head into the tram lines for the first time here today. Umbrellas are up. People are still watching as we go. Lights out here in the pre-final as there's an absolute deluge. There's standing water on the inside of turn 1. That is looking rather treacherous as there is a gaggle of around 6 or 7 carts going through into turn 2. It's 3 abreast at some points, but Kai Rillet, through the fact of the matter that he got pole position, he now starts to get away. Mathis Turlo up into second position. A little bit further down the order, you can just see how difficult it's going to be for those drivers behind. Casper Schomans trying to make his way through. Come the end of this race. So there is a bit more of a darkness tinge in the air as well with the grey clouds that came over, having seen it unfold on the live stream over the past 45 minutes or so before we came back for racing. As you can see, going under the braking zone, they're going sideways. Because literally you're pushing the brake down in order to get that cart to bite onto the tarmac and get through, but the back end normally will step out depending, as some drivers going really wide coming out of the final right-hander that brings them onto the chicane. But Kai Rillet already after the first lap, and I'm not at all surprised by this, has a 1.5 second advantage ahead of Mathis Turlo. Casper Schomans has made his way up into third place, and there's been a little bit of a touch and a nearly slight other one there, I think, maybe. between him and Joip Breedveld. Mariembourg trying to get into the thick of the action. Nick Gerhardt goes side by side with the German, and there's a bit of a squeeze put on going through into the left-hander at turn 4. But they both managed to make it through, and that's allowed Enzo Bol to close up in the 2:55 in 7th position. This is getting rather hairy. You can see the amount of water that's actually, when they're going through certain parts of the circuit, sometimes the front bumper will actually, as we've got yellow flags going through in towards turn 6, so it looks like someone's had a bit of an off-track excursion. There is so much standing water on this track. It was declared a wet race around half an hour ago when the rain started coming down. So no at all surprised that Thomas Leiner, our race director, opted to go for the better decision, and I have to credit him well with doing that. Very well experienced in his own right. But Kai Gilles now continues to start leading the field, and his gap now, after 2 laps, is nigh on double to nearly 3 seconds. Rune de Bruyker unfortunately out, and there's been a little bit of a drama for Enzo Bol, who's dropped all the way down outside of the top 18. Well, he's dropped to stone dead last, 19th at the moment, as there is a 3-way scrap here. Joip Breedveld has got Nick Gerhardt right up his back bumper, and I don't mean that just figuratively. I meant nigh on literally, as Gerhardt's trying to go up the inside. Breedveld going through turn 4. I think he's got the move done, but Mariembourg is trying to make it 3 wide. Oh my goodness me, the German decided to pounce, and he's got real good purchase in that X-Prix chassis. Mariembourg nearly could have had the pair of them right there and then on the exit of turn number 4. My goodness me. The wet weather brings that air of unpredictability, and that's exactly what we've seen. So the drivers have got to really watch themselves, especially in the braking zones. And the reason being is that if you cave in that front bumper, it's an automatic 5-second time penalty post-race, and no driver wants to have that happen. So coming up to 9 minutes and 20 seconds plus an additional lap still remaining. There is, I think I spotted, it's either Ralf van der Pevert or Enzo van den Dickenberg, and it looks like that is Casper Schommans who's actually ahead. Oh, it's actually Luke Neeson. Enzo Bol has now effectively de facto retired from this race. A real shame for the 2:55. He was at the sharper end of things. There's standing water going into turn 2. Oh, and one of the drivers had the good foresight to just stay away from the apex. As we've got someone spun around. Now, who is that? That looks to be Nick Gerhardt. Oh! Do not tell me that that was a rejoin. Oh, my goodness. Please. Oh, my goodness me. Trying to rejoin, and then you have 2 carts coming along at full racing speed. And they were literally, whoever that was, they were side by side. Let's just hope that everything's all sorted itself out there, because this is getting dangerous right now. As you can see, they're starting to use the curbs. A bit of curb hopping going on, and one of them, I think it was Casper Schommans that I just saw having to use the curb to just settle the cart a little bit. As you can just see how much this standing water, that, I mean, look at the chicane. It's absolutely significantly saturated, as are the camera lenses on the cameras being used by our camera crew out there. A big thank you to them for braving the weathers along with the marshals. So as you can just see, the way that Matthias Turlo just went through that standing water and then skidded onto the curb, that is very dangerous indeed. Well, dangerous in terms of how they're having to control the carts, because the first thing that these drivers will have a definitively very tense upper body after this, because you're wrestling with that steering wheel. So you're using a combination of the triceps, the biceps, the forearms, and also your shoulder muscles as well. Plus, it's also working your abdomen, your core, which is one of the key points as a racing driver to maintain. As again, yellow flags going through the right-hand sweeper at turn 6. As we've had a couple of carts off, and they've ended up on the grass. So these weather conditions are really proving to be trickier as the race now hits the halfway point in about 20 seconds or so. This is difficult, to say the very least. There's quite a few other words which might be considered as industrial language that I can't pronounce, or I can't state, because that's how difficult it has become. The rain is intensifying, the wind has picked up again, And we still have 6.5 minutes to go in this race, plus an additional lap. Kai Rielert's his lead over Matthias Turlo. And that was Nick so Nick Gerhards and Boluet both out. Oh my goodness, it has changed the race dynamically, and it's also changed a few championship campaigns in the process. I mean, we'll keep an eye on Kai Rielert's for the moment, but certain parts on the circuit, look at the amount of standing water he's having to circumnavigate. I mean, like, it's not just rainfall, it's a deluge. It is literally coming down significantly. So around about 50 millimetres of rain has been predicted in terms of the downpour. And Rielert's, because he's out front, he now knows that he's just doing his own race. He's not worrying about what's happening behind. He's just focusing on the job ahead. And now you can see, look, I mean, just what... I'm going to take this from a road-going perspective. You go through a big puddle, you know, you can feel it unsettle the car, and sometimes it will pull it across. So if it's towards the inside edge of the road, then it will be a case that it will pull the car in the corresponding direction. But Rielert's is still pushing, and he has got, you know, we're into the 1:14 now. So forget the times that we were setting in qualifying and the races yesterday. It's a completely different proposition. As now Matthias Turlo has lost out to Joip Breedveld. We've got another couple of drivers down the order. Benjamin Van Hees down in 16th and has parked the car on lap number 5. We're now on lap 7 as Farin Mega senses an opportunity. This is for P3. Mega waiting to see what happens with the 242 as Matthias Turlo gets a really bad run. He loses a bit of momentum coming through into the chicane, and Farin Mega quickly on the throttle to try and capitalise. And they go through turn 1. Farin Mega looking up the inside. Oh, and he went through a big splash puddle on the inside of the exit of turn 1. Through turn 2, Matthias Turlo finds the standing water puddles. And Farin Mega now as, another kart off. That looks to be the 2. Now, who is that? That's Puck Gubbles in the 288. So Puck Gubbles trying to get the kart back onto the circuit. And now Farin Mega really fancies his chances going through to the far part of the circuit. They've just gone through turn 5 into turn 6. Turlo goes to the inside. Farin Mega carries the momentum through to get a really good run out of the corner. And that's a good tactic to use in these adverse weather conditions. You don't use always the conventional racing line, especially when you're trying to get past somebody else in front. So the battle for P3 really heating up with just over 3.25 minutes plus an additional lap. And look at the run, Farin Mega. He absolutely steamrolled up the inside of Matthias Turlo. Oh my goodness, that was inspired. He knew where to pick his spot. And Matthias Turlo, and looks like they've called the race. They've called the race early. The weather has gotten really, really bad out there. So they've decided to call the race early with 10 minutes completed. So Rielert takes the victory. Joip Breedveld takes second. Farin Mega takes third. Matthias Turlo, Casper Schormans, Luke Neeson, Vic Stevens and Olivier Jonkers have crossed the line. Matthias Ringgaard started down in 18th, finished in 9th. Vasco Westhovens in 10th. Thies Dams in 11th. Knoren takes 12th. But you can just see how difficult it is out there. I think that's a very, very wise call there to call the checkered. But Kai Rielert, it's 3 from 3 this weekend. And you know what? Above all else, it's the JJ Racing top 3 with Joip Breedveld and Farin Mega. And I'm sure that the drivers will be very relieved in some respects. So, Rielert takes the victory after a shortened encounter. We went 10 minutes into that race, and then they called out the checkered flag. A very, very wise call, I think, with these adverse conditions. Joip Breedveld in second, Farin Mega, Matthias Turlo, Casper Schormans running at the top 5. Luke Neeson's, Vic Stevens, Olivier Jonkers, Matthias Ringgaard, Vasco Westhovens ran out the top 10. Thies Daams, Krik Knoren, Enzo van den Dickenberg, Ralph van der Pevert, Pat Gubbels would be the last of the drivers nigh on getting to 8 laps completed, but Pat Gubbels actually ended up off the track. Benjamin Van Hees in 16th, retiring on lap 4, with Nick Gerhards, Boluet on lap 3, Enzo Bol and Rune de Broeke unfortunately not finishing the race.